So let's stay right there and expand it out a little bit, because one reason that Russia shut down that entire Nord Stream gas flow to Germany is that it wants those Western sanctions removed on its oil. But as we noted at the top, that is not going to happen. And in fact, the full European sanctions on Russian energy do not kick in until December 5th, when the West tries to stop nearly all flows of Russian oil by hitting the financing and insurance and shipping side of the business, making it nearly impossible to sell a shipload of Putin's crude. And Russia has said, if that happens, it will retaliate. Now, some of that may have just been what we witnessed. But today, Russia did something else that was odd and disturbing. It released a video apparently showing a freezing Europe. Let's bring in Dan Yergin, Vice Chairman of S&P Global, and Andy Lipow, President of Lipow Oil Associates. Dan, I don't know if you had a chance to see this sort of bizarre commercial. Okay, we're not going to give Putin any airtime for his sort of disgusting promotion, but we'll show a tiny clip to our audience where the gas flow goes to zero, weird music, icy winds, what looks to be ice across London and other parts of Germany. Dan, what the heck kind of message is Putin trying to send here?
I think the message is very clear, Brian, which is that this is an energy war, that this is the energy front in the war in Ukraine. And Putin laid out his strategy in June. He gave a speech in which he said high prices will create economic hardship, social turmoil, bring populists to power, and strangely use this phrase, almost as creepy as that video, which is change the elites in Europe. And what he left unsaid is destroy, undermine, make it impossible for the coalition to hold together supporting Ukraine. And now we're down to, what we've just seen is basically an escalation in the energy war. And it's clearly the Russians have had plenty of time to figure this out. This is a direct response to the sanctions, but to the notion of the price cap being put on. So this is an escalation. And I'll just tell you, we've had the German economic minister, now the Finnish economics minister, warning of, strangely enough, a Lehman-style economic collapse. So this is escalation. And that video is really creepy.
It is, and we just want to give a little clip of it because we didn't give it too much airtime, but we wanted to give the audience an idea of what kind of almost psychological warfare that they're doing. Andy, I mean, here's the thing. And again, we've been covering this story. I've been over there a couple of times on this, and I get it. People say you're fear-mongering. Germany's going to be fine. They've been through worse. They will be fine long-term. We understand that. Europe has been through a lot more difficult situations, actual wars, than this. That said, trillions of dollars are at risk. Entire industries and economies, Andy, are they not? Fertilizers, aluminum, zinc, things we never think about until we have to.
Well, it certainly is. When you think about all the energy-intensive industries, starting with the metals, whether it's aluminum, steel, zinc, or others industries such as cement and glasses, you can see everything is going to be affected, including the entire automobile industry, which depends on aluminum parts. You can think about, in France, wine bottles and wine glasses are going to be difficult to source as glass factories shut down. So there's a lot of things that are happening, and Russia is looking to put Europe really into a recession. What I might add is this is going to affect China in a big way, given the immense amount of trade that's going on between China and Europe. So this can come back to hurt China as well.
Yeah, and Dan, you literally, I would say, wrote the book, but you've actually written numerous books. Of course, The Prize, your first one, and The New Map, which was, by the way, is just required reading for everybody. You've got to read that. So you see this thing sort of from almost an outer space point of view where you put the globe together. It feels like Russia, China, Iran, and to a lesser extent, India are kind of forming their own odd coalition versus the West. How does this reshape geopolitics?
Well, I think we're seeing geopolitics being reshaped in real time right now. because basically Russia's integration with the West is over. The door has been slammed. Putin has thrown away 22 years of economic integration, and basically Russia ends up an economic dependency of China. Obviously, Iran, they're comparing notes on how do you deal with sanctions, and Russia's buying drones right now from Iran I think India is sort of more in a middle situation. The Indian foreign minister said, basically said, we don't have a dog in this hunt. We're interested in food, fuel, and fertilizer, what Andy was referring to. But I think India is in a quandary because it's also in this thing called the Quad with the United States trying to contain China, which is its rival. But on the other hand, it has a historic relationship. Yeah. And by the way, it loves buying cheap oil from Russia right now.
That's it. Andy, I watched an interview, a CNBC interview with our colleague Hadley Gamble with Hardeep Singh, who's the energy minister, and he tried to explain it away and say, well, we've got 1.4 billion people. We got to think about them. We're democratically elected. And he is right. But you do have a dog in the hunt. If you're going to buy cheap oil from Vladimir Putin when almost the rest of the industrialized world has said they are not going to. Don't India, do they have, in your mind, a responsibility to the world, to Ukraine?
Well, I think that India doesn't feel that way. They're looking out for their own economic self-interest, and they're benefiting from the deeply discounted Russian oil that they're purchasing. As Daniel mentioned, I mean, India is really trying to contain China. At the same time, they're maintaining relations with Russia and the West. So from their standpoint, they may think of themselves as neutral, just taking advantage of the situation. Yeah. But ultimately, they are going to be affected as well. If Europe goes into a recession, India needs to export a lot of consumer goods and services.
Dan, I want to ask you a final question, because here's the thing in the interview that I found a little bit vexing. And I didn't find it vexing. I understood what he was doing. He basically said, well, the sanctions aren't working anyway, so we should buy them. But maybe the sanctions aren't working because India keeps buying now so much Russian oil. And it's not just them, obviously, it's others as well. And a lot of it is getting to Europe, right? I mean, just they're transferring the ship or they're claiming different ownership of it. Are the current sanctions working on Russia?
Well, the current sanctions right now, I mean, there are a lot of sanctions, but oil exports are not sanctioned. And one reason the U.S. government has come up with this idea of a price cap is a way to keep the oil flowing to India, because they don't want to have a 7 million barrel a day hole in the market. So it's really a tough situation. And there's India, which imports 85% of its oil that, they need to get it from. So what at least Washington's trying to do is prevent there being a worse crisis. But it's a really tough situation come, as you said, December 5th, when the ban goes into effect, including on insurance and shipping. Then it gets a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and we'll listen, there's been people calling, Dan, I'm sure you've heard it. They're saying maybe we don't need to do the sanctions because the population, some right-winger in Italy said that today. We'll find out. Dan Yergin and Andy Lipow, a good discussion, guys. We could have done the whole hour. Thank you very much.